Now, I got to bring in Krauthammer because at 8 o'clock, Charles and I discussed whether Donald Trump would be attacked. Charles said no. I said yes. Took only a few minutes into the debate for Jeb Bush to go after Trump on the banning Muslim issue.
This is not a serious proposal. In fact, it will push the Muslim world, the Arab world, away from us at a time when we need to re-engage with them to be able to create a strategy to destroy ISIS. So Donald, is great at the one-liners, but he's a chaos candidate, and he'd be a chaos president. He would not be the commander-in-chief we need to keep our country safe.
Jeb doesn't really believe I'm unhinged. He said that very simply because he has failed in this campaign. It's been a total disaster. Nobody cares. And frankly, I'm the most solid person up here.
All right, joining us now from Washington, Charles Krauthammer. Now, at 8 o'clock, you said that Pope Francis and Oreilly were infallible. That was very, very observant of you because it was Bush trying to attack Trump early on, big time, was it not?
Well, I'm glad you brought it up because I do think that after 2 hours of a debate that detailed and that passionate and that engaging, that the most important question that America wants to hear about, the millions out there watching us right now, is whether you were right in predicting at 8 o'clock that there wouldn't be attacks on Trump.
Well, I think it was important
I'm really
because...
glad.
No, don't give me that stuff.
I know why you think it's important.
No, here's why it's important. Because it was Bush's last stand, all right, as Ms. Tanteros just referenced. He had to make an impression. Jeb Bush had to. He's standing there, and he had to go after the big dog. He did. Now, my question to you is, did Bush do himself any good by doing that?
But that's the point I try to make at 8 o'clock, since you're insistent on revisiting that moment in American media history of which the whole country is waiting to hear about. My argument was it would make no sense. Do you think that attacking Trump moved the needle one bit for Bush? The answer is no, of course.
Did it hurt him?
It would have in the first debate. In the second debate, when Bush was losing altitude, Trump was rising, that was the time he had to stand up and defend himself. When the spread now is 40% for Trump, 5% for Bush, that was a waste of his time. And I would say one thing, he was given the biggest opportunity of the night. Trump says that he would kill, or he was asked, is it true that you would kill the relatives of terrorists? Trump, I thought, would deny it and would fudge. He didn't. He essentially said yes. Bush muffed the answer. I mean, that is an unbelievably irresponsible, semi-insane policy. And Bush swung and missed. It was actually Rand Paul who picked it up in the next question, in saying it was essentially ridiculous to even talk about that, because you'd have to tear up the Geneva Convention.
And that was, we're going to play that soundbite a little bit later on. Who won the debate? 9 people. I don't think anybody really won, but maybe, who did you think impressed you? I mean...
Well, here's where your infallibility comes into play. I think you're absolutely right. There was no winner.
Yeah.
That was a whirlwind of debate. There were thousands of words tossed out there. There was no winner. There were a few losers. There were a few surprising, I wouldn't say winners, but people who distinguished themselves. Rand Paul, with whom I agree on almost nothing on these issues, I think defended his sort of semi-isolationist position, libertarian position, extremely well, even though it's not going to move the needle one bit as to where he stands in the polls. Christie had excellent moments where he essentially he turns and he addresses the audience, not the moderators, not the pundits, but the audience, in a way that I thought was connecting. And Fiorina, who had very little time, used it extremely well. Her exchange, or her sort of declamation on why she wouldn't want to meet with Putin and how she would handle Russia, I thought was really quite commanding. Otherwise, I thought there were no people who distinguished themselves. Carson, I thought, was sort of out of it. Kasich as well. And among the others, what happened with Cruz and Rubio is they neutralized each other. Cruz and Rubio had essentially been 1 and 2 in almost all of the previous debates. They are the best at that. But they went after each other so often and were goaded into it. That was obviously the strategy of the moderators, that they essentially neutralized each other, and I don't think either was damaged or advanced very much.
Trump?
Well, Trump was interesting. He was laying back. He didn't have a lot to say. He was completely flummoxed on the question about the nuclear triad. I'm not sure he knew exactly what it was, but I thought he had his best moment right afterward when he was asked if he would support the nominee, and then all of a sudden he turned the switch. He played statesman. He said, yes, I respect the party, I respect my colleagues, and I will. And that, I thought, is the moment that will remain, and that's the moment that I thought redeemed his evening.
All right. Now we're going to hold Charles over against his will.